Hey mama, welcome to Parently. Today we are talking to Keri Rooney. Keri has this new blog that is amazing. She wants to encourage all of the mamas in their motherhood and in a Christ-centered perspective. So Keri had a pregnancy that she wasn't exactly expecting. Everything was going great, and then some things happened. And so today we want Keri to talk about her pregnancy and how her faith was such a huge part of that pregnancy. So Keri, tell us a little bit about it.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So I'm Carrie, and I got pregnant last year around August. And it was kind of unusual because I was expecting it to take a long time for me to get pregnant because I've dealt with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, in the past. And so when my husband and I were praying, we felt the Lord calling us to just kind of let things naturally happen when they're supposed to happen. I wasn't expecting to get pregnant right off the bat, and I was really excited about that. So everything kind of in that way was really a smooth start to my pregnancy. But at my 20-week appointment, when they do your anatomy test, they have this kind of a newer, I guess, in the last 5 years, they started to measure the mom's cervix and see that they've just linked a shorter cervix with premature labor and premature delivery. And so they measured mine, and they're like, okay, we're just going to go get the doctor, and he's going to come back. And he came back in, and he told me that my cervix was about half the size that it was supposed to be. And since it was my first pregnancy, they didn't know if that would mean that I would go into premature labor, if I would deliver really early. But at this point, it was really scary because, when you're 20 weeks pregnant, your baby's not even viable to live outside the womb. And to know that my cervix might have been effacing early was super scary. So they put me on kind of a plan for the next 5 weeks to see if my cervix would stay the same or if it would continue to get smaller. And so they had me come in for weekly ultrasounds, which wasn't super fun because that's all the internal ultrasounds. So I had to do that so many times throughout my whole pregnancy. And they had me take progesterone suppositories to try to thicken it and keep it like holding. And then they were going to talk to me about options if my cervix stayed the same or if it got smaller. They were going to talk to me about options to possibly do a cerclage, which is like a stitch to keep it closed so that it doesn't open up and dilate too early. And there was another option that I took, which was to put this thing called a pessary in there that kind of like holds the weight a little bit of the baby in your cervix. And it was a less invasive option. And I chose that because my cervix shortened a tiny bit during that month, but it wasn't below, I think it's 2 centimeters was what they said. If it gets below that, like, you really need to do the cerclage, but it didn't get below that. Thank God. So I chose the pessary, and I had a lot of limits after that. I used to be a mom or a girl that loves to work out, and I played college softball. And so I was really used to just working out, and I was really excited to like go to spin class during pregnancy and to stay active. And I was told that day forward, you can't even walk up your stairs more than once a day to your apartment. You can't take your dog on a walk. You have to spend most of your day laying down or sitting. And it also was hard because I worked at a Christian preschool, and I was a pre-K teacher. And so they said, you can't lift any kids. You can't be active at all. And my job was active. I was walking around all the time. So that was also difficult because it changed not only my entire lifestyle and all the things that I could do, but it also changed my job and everything. And it was from 20 weeks to 40 weeks plus this was going to be how it was. And that felt And I know in pregnancy, even just like a week feels sometimes like a really long time, especially if you are having difficulties in your pregnancy, and you're kind of always waiting for like answers from the doctor and things like that. So there was a lot of months in my pregnancy that were really just the unknown. I had no idea if my body would go into labor extremely early. I sometimes would even follow moms that were NICU moms because I kind of wanted to emotionally and mentally prepare to walk down maybe that journey and to kind of see what that would be like. I remember always looking at what week I was and basically how I would be like, okay, I made it to 29 weeks. You know, if I have her now, then, you know, I might be in the NICU for this long. I kind of was thinking that way because I just knew I had no idea. I was like, I could go into labor at pretty much at any point, which normally you only think that way at the way end. So there was a lot that changed for me right off the bat, and being somebody who didn't walk through what I thought I would walk through, which was infertility, and then being like, oh, this is smooth sailing. And then all of a sudden, halfway through my pregnancy, being told that basically my body, my cervix is incompetent and it might not hold my baby for as long as it's supposed to. It was really hard, and I just had to lean on the Lord so much. I wrote down in my notes that the three things I think that I used the most in my pregnancy were a prayer journal, listening to worship music, and leaning into other Christians and specifically other moms and into my husband, and just really using the community around me. I had to be somebody who allowed people to help me a lot because I couldn't take groceries up and down the stairs. Like I said, I couldn't take my dog out. And my husband was in EMT school at the time. Now he's a firefighter, but he was in EMT school and working. And so he was not really home that much either. So I spent a lot of time at home alone, which was also hard because kind of having that anxious waiting feeling of, I don't know if everything's going to go okay. And being alone was difficult, but at the same time, I feel like those were the times that my faith in the Lord was just increased so much, because I really only had God to talk to sometimes. And that was really, really good. It was really hard, but I had to have these moments with God where I would cry and I would just know, like, I'm not going to get an answer right now, but I know that Jesus is crying with me and he's hurting with me and he's in this with me and he knows the rest of this story. And I just knew, like, I need to put my hope in Jesus because anything in life, it's just, there's so much unknown. And I think this is one of the first times that I really felt like I have absolutely no control over what happens to this child that I already loved so much. And I just want to keep her safe and I want to have her come out at the time that she's supposed to, but I can't control the way that my body was made and the way that it's coping with this pregnancy. And all I can do is listen to what the doctors are telling me not to do and pray through this whole thing and be prepared for whatever it's going to look like. It was really cool because before I found this out, I journaled about my daughter, not knowing she was a girl, and I felt like I really wanted God to give me a word for her. And I kind of was thinking more like a name, because in the Bible, there's so many people that that God names himself. Like Abram, he changes his name. And there's so many people that God names himself. And part of my blog is that God names all of us his beloved. That's what he calls us. And so I really wanted to have a name for this baby. And the Lord put the word hope on my heart. And I just wrote it down. I was like, hope. I feel like he's putting this word on my heart. And I had no idea what I would walk through after that. And that I would be somebody that really had to put every ounce of my hope, not in myself and not in my circumstances, but in the Lord, because it was in his hands and he was going to ultimately have the glory in my story and in my daughter's story. And so my daughter's middle name is Hope. And I I had 2 times when I was pregnant with her that I had some scares. I was hospitalized twice because the pessary that they put in me, my body was rejecting. And so we didn't know this at the time, but 2 different times it was like as if my water broke. One time when I was only 24 weeks. So obviously I was completely terrified, not even knowing if I was about to deliver a baby at 24 weeks, and one time at 28 weeks. And so they wanted to monitor me overnight and make sure that I wasn't having any contractions and things like that. And so those were 2 times where, yeah, I went to the hospital bawling. Even my doctor, when I went checked, was crying with me because she thought my water broke too. And she was holding my hand saying, it's going to be okay. We're going to go to the hospital right now and check you out and everything's going to be fine. But God really met me in those times and gave me so much peace and provided all the people that I needed to be with me. And it ended up both times being a complete scare, and really realizing that my body was just producing a lot of extra fluid to kind of push this pessary out because it was like a foreign object. And the nurses, they just had never seen somebody's body do that, but mine did. And so now moving forward for next pregnancies, I kind of know a lot more. But in your first pregnancy, you don't know the way your body's going to react to all the different things that they give you, and the things that might help or might not help. And so it was kind of a learning process, and I'm glad that the doctors wanted to pay such close attention. But in those times, of course, it was really scary, not knowing if I was going to deliver. So I want to give you the happy end of my story that I delivered at term at 37 weeks and 5 days, and my daughter did not have to have any NICU help or anything. She came out super healthy, at 6 pounds, really tiny, but super healthy. And I continued from 20 weeks to 37 weeks. I continued to just really be in a season of laying down and waiting and being still. And I just want to say that God is writing the story of your pregnancy, and He knows exactly what you need to prepare you as a mother. And I really believe that my pregnancy and those moments with the Lord being alone, and those moments of having to lay down on the couch, and those moments of having to allow people to help me, were really preparing me to be a mom. God knew what this past year would look like for my family. It's been a year of, it's been such a blessing. But my husband also has walked through so much with his career as a firefighter. It's actually pretty funny because yesterday to today is his first shift as a firefighter. But this past year of having our daughter, he's been in the academy for it. And so I've been alone a lot. We weren't expecting that because we didn't know he'd get hired until after our daughter was born. And so all those times of waiting and putting my hope in the Lord and really being still and resting was a season that I really needed, because this past year was a season of me kind of never being still, because I've been doing a lot of everything by myself, and also having my hope completely in the Lord, because my husband hasn't been able to be as available for me as a new mom as we had hoped. And so I just want to say that God sees you, and He understands and knows everything about your pregnancy, every way that it's going to pan out. And He has so much purpose in each and every appointment and in each and every way that your body is reacting to this pregnancy. And He can make a purpose out of any of it as well. He can use all the things that we might wish didn't happen, and He is sorry that are happening to us, but He can use all of that to prepare us for the next season of being a mom and having this child outside of our bellies. And I just really believe that in my story, the Lord was walking with me the whole time, and He knew exactly what I was going to need to prepare to be a mom. And I only have been a mom for a year, so I can't even imagine all the rest of the years that I'm being prepared for, and my faith is being shaped for. And so just know, like, God, He made us, and He knows, he made 9 months for us to have a baby in our
Mm-hmm.
belly. And there's a purpose in that. There's a purpose in the waiting. And there's a purpose that he wants to have in your pregnancy. It's not just about, okay, I just gotta I just want everything to go good and then just like fast forward to having the baby because this part's so scary or this part's uncomfortable or whatever it is for you. God has so much purpose and he wants to do a work in you right now in your heart and prepare you to be a mom in your pregnancy. And this time is purposeful. It's not just because, of course, the baby's being made, but it's like God could have done that in a day if he wanted to, but he made it 9 months for a reason, or, for some moms, 7 months or whatever it's going to be. And he just really knows that that is what your heart needs as you feel the baby inside of you. And he knows that you're going to need all of this time that you have right now where you don't have the baby outside of you to really prepare you for when that happens, and to grow you as a mom and to grow your heart and your faith in him. And yeah, so I just want to share that there is so much hope in the moments that are hard in pregnancy and you don't know what's going to happen. God gives us a hope that is outside of this world, and it is despite any circumstance. And so I just want to encourage you to keep talking to him and keep walking through this with him, and know that your pregnancy might be different than your friends or than people that you see online, but that is your story and there's so much beauty in it. And God chose you to be your child's mom, and he is writing this story, and he knows exactly the way that your heart needs to be shaped for this specific child. And so I know all of us moms, as much as things can be hard on our bodies, we would go through it 10,000 times for our babies. And so just know at the end of this, it's going to be so worth it, and it's going to make so much sense of why things needed to happen the way that they did. And you're going to be so grateful that you had that time to become the person that you're going to be for your baby. And not just for your baby, but for a person that's going to grow up, and that you're going to someday share about your pregnancy too. And maybe it'll be a girl, and maybe you'll have to walk her through motherhood as well. And so I just want to encourage you guys that God knows what he's doing, and he has such a purpose in your pregnancy, not just in the fact that the baby's being formed, but your heart is also being formed during it. And I'm just so grateful for my story. As much as I, at the moment, wished it was different, I don't anymore, because it's exactly what I needed to have this next season of motherhood. So
Yeah, that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I think, there's so much we could even just talk about more. I really want to talk about the fact that you truly, you can tell that you believe what you're saying, that it was a time of shaping for you. And there were things that, maybe you didn't completely understand, and you had a great healthcare provider that came alongside of you and truly was giving you the care that you needed to have a safe pregnancy. It sounds like she was doing everything that she could to get you to where you needed to be to have a safe pregnancy. But then on the flip side of that coin, the safety that you had in God's hands, that safe in faith pregnancy, no matter what his plan was, he already knew, and it was a perfect plan because it was his plan. And so that's where I want to bring in Parently, where maybe you were sitting on the couch sometimes and you were alone and you were thinking, I just need somebody to talk to me and tell me again what was going on and reassure me that this is what our healthcare providers are doing to get us to the end. And with Parently, we want to bring that into the home of mothers. If they're sitting on the couch and they're alone and they have questions, that is where we have Community Live with Parently, where Dr. Boyd gets on weekly live and moms can watch those videos and ask questions there in real time. Maybe things that they don't have an appointment with their healthcare provider that week or that day, and they want to ask that question. And so we are so excited to provide that to moms. And with Dr. Boyd's perspective as a healthcare provider, or my perspective as a healthcare provider, that it is scientifically based with ACOG standards, but then it is also backed up with the truth of God, that he ultimately is our physician and taking care of us. So all of you mamas that are watching, definitely go take a look at Keri's blog. She has got some amazing posts that will encourage you. She has an Instagram as well. We're going to put the links below, so if you want to click on those and go check her out, and definitely go check out Parently. We completely believe that it will encourage you in your pregnancy, prepare you, and make you more confident and more prepared as a mother. Thank you, Keri, for being on today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.